Thriving cities across Texas, growing cities across Texas have bond elections on a very regular basis. We want the citizens involved in their city. We want them to have a say and have a voice in the future of Beaumont. And we want to do that together with the citizens. And we want to help move the city forward through the various projects and the various needs of the city. And that's what this is ultimately all about.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Beaumont Beat video podcast, where we move with the heartbeat of the city. I'm your host, Tracy Koenig. The City of Beaumont has a bond committee working hard on some proposals for the future of Beaumont. Now, this group has met 4 times since April, and they'll meet again 2 more times in June and July. They meet to discuss what to include in a potential bond proposal that would go up for election on the November ballot. Now, the city hasn't had a bond election since 1983. And get this, that's the same year that Sally Ride became the first American woman in space and when Michael Jackson debuted the moonwalk. That was 42 years ago. Now, back then, Beaumont passed a voter-approved $16 million general obligation bond package for drainage improvements. In just a moment, one of Beaumont's assistant city managers, June Ellis, will join us to explain what the bond committee is discussing on this bond proposal and how you can get involved in the process. But before we get to all that, I want to invite you to the grand reopening of RiverfrontPark. The first time you and your family can enjoy the park once again since the shoreline was washed away in 2017 by Tropical Storm Harvey. You'll want to join us on Thursday, June 12th, along the riverbank behind City Hall. Starting at 5:30, city officials will cut the ribbon to officially reopen the park, and then citizens can enjoy the first summer sundown concert in the park next to the riverfront. There will also be a food truck, free ice cream, and sweet tea to the first 100 people. You don't want to miss this historic grand reopening. Now let's get into today's show. June, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here. Why don't you start by telling us who you are, what you do for the city?
I am June Ellis. I am the Assistant City Manager at the City of Beaumont. I've been with the city for a little over 2.5 years, and I am the Assistant City Manager over city operations. I oversee various city departments, including finance and IT, public works, facility maintenance, and others.
Yeah,
that's my role.
Busy guy. And you've been a part of this bond committee so far. Let's start by talking about what a possible bond election means. Like, a lot of people don't understand what a bond election is. Give us a little bit of a rundown on that.
Yeah, thank you. A bond election, also called a bond referendum, you'll hear that term as well. It is a mechanism that requires the voters to approve the city with issuing debt to fund various capital projects. Various cities have large capital project needs, and through a bond election, it allows the city to decide on what those projects are, to strategize and plan for those projects long term, and seek the voters' approval for funding these projects over an extended period of time.
Okay, and this would be different from other types of bonds where we would take out debt, right? Yeah,
absolutely. A general obligation bond, we term that as GO. That is what a bond election ultimately authorizes the city to issue. The city cannot issue general obligation bonds, again, without the approval of the voters. And there are other bond types as well, certificates of obligation, that do not require the election by the voters, as well as other mechanisms. But those are the 2 main options to fund capital projects.
Now, I know other cities do this all the time. I know Austin and Dallas, to get these big projects that we wouldn't be able to get otherwise. But it's been 42 years for the city of Beaumont. Why now?
Why now? It's because there are various needs here at the city of Beaumont. Staff has been working consistently and over the years identifying projects that need to be improved here at the city. These projects can range from street improvements or new facilities, new parks. So because there are needs out there identified by the city, and not just by the city, that citizens also inform us of various issues that they see within their communities. And we take that information from cities and we include that in our various plans, and we use those plans to help make a decision on how we're going to move forward as a city. So now is the time, because the longer we wait, the the more dilapidated and the more problems continue to occur.
Right. And we did have that community survey to ask citizens what's important to you, but not everything can go on this bond. How do you choose what can be a part of the bond?
We choose what can be part of the bond through various means. The City Council appointed a 17-member bond advisory committee just a couple of months ago. That committee is made up of members of the community, citizens of Beaumont. That committee is charged with seeking out those projects that the city needs to address in the near future, as well as making sure that those projects are what the city desires and needs in order to have a sustaining and growing community. Staff works along with that bond advisory committee, provides information to that committee so that they can make a determination, because ultimately they will have to present to City Council a recommended list of projects that the City Council would consider adding on a bond package for the citizens.
Okay, and I know infrastructure has been top of mind for citizens. That's something that they say they want, the infrastructure, the roads, the drainage, that type of thing. We already spend $1.5 million on those projects, but we are going to include some more infrastructure projects in this bond, but separate from that, right? Because that's covered in something else.
Absolutely, absolutely. The city has always had a community investment plan, a CIP, which is essentially a plan that includes major city capital projects. And we've included funds for infrastructure in prior years, as well as we do now. But this bond election will include larger projects, larger street improvements, and possibly drainage improvements, in addition to what we already budget.
Okay. What types of things are we talking? If people are listening, they're like, how would this benefit me as a citizen? What types of projects are we considering, or is the committee considering?
Yeah, there are various projects that the committee is considering, park-related projects, trails, and various facility projects. So those are the types of projects that normally go on a bond referendum, as well as public safety related projects. So the projects have to serve a public purpose. So it's facilities and parks and streets and sidewalks as well, and other public infrastructure needs.
Okay, like our fire departments that need some upgrades and those types of things, our animal care center.
Absolutely. Those are examples of projects
that could potentially
go on a bond election.
Okay. Tell us who is allowed to vote for this.
Any citizen of Beaumont who's registered to vote is allowed to vote in the upcoming bond election. So it's just like any other election at the city. So as long as you're authorized to vote in the city, then you can vote in the bond election.
Okay, well, in just a moment, we're going to talk more in detail about the bond and find out some more information about it. But first, here are a couple of commercials we want to show you about the city's upcoming Juneteenth and 4th of July celebrations.
Celebrate Juneteenth in downtown Beaumont on Saturday, June 14th from 4 to 9, featuring performances from the popular R&B funk group Midnight Star, with favorites like Midas Touch and No Parking on the Dance Floor. The City of Beaumont Juneteenth celebration, Saturday, June 14th in downtown Beaumont, with support from ExxonMobil. Visit BeaumontTexas.gov. Celebrate July 4th with the greatest celebration in town. The City of Beaumont's annual 4th of July festivities at the Downtown Event Center and Lake, featuring live entertainment along with food trucks and the largest fireworks show in Southeast Texas. The fun begins at 5 o'clock at the City of Beaumont 4th of July celebration, with support from Budweiser Folds of Honor and other generous sponsors. Visit BeaumontEventsTX.com for more information.
The Juneteenth celebration will be taking place this weekend, and the 4th of July celebration is coming up in about 3 weeks. We can't wait to see you at these events. Now let's get back to our discussion about bonds and Mr. June Ellis. Okay, what happens if voters don't approve the bond proposal this time around?
If voters don't approve the bond proposal this time around, then the city will not be authorized to issue debt for these major capital projects for the next 3 years. State law requires us to wait 3 years before the city can issue debt for certain projects. So that would delay us in moving forward on these projects, which will require the city to have to reconsider and think of alternative ways to fund these projects or delay the projects and even consider reprioritizing the projects.
Okay, so we wouldn't be able to just say, let's have another election next year. We'd have to wait 3 years to be able to bring it back up.
That is absolutely correct. And the current state legislature, they're looking into extending that out to 5 years. But currently it's 3 years. It's a 3-year time frame that we would have to wait.
Okay, if it's approved, though, could the city then take these funds and say, oh, wait, let's use it over here or over here? Can we use that money however we want?
No, we can't. State law requires the city to only use the funds approved in a bond election by the voters of a city on those projects that are in the proposition that the voters voted for. So the city can't use funds, for example, street projects for facility projects. The funds can only be used for what was approved by the voters.
So voters can feel rest assured that whatever they agree to that's in that bond proposal for it to be improved, the money will actually go to those projects.
That's correct.
Okay. The big question I know a lot of voters have is, what will this mean for my finances, for my property taxes? Let's explain how much a potential bond would cost the average citizen.
So a bond election could potentially increase the debt service portion of a resident's property tax. A property tax is made up of two portions: operations and maintenance, and debt service, which is used to pay for the sale of bonds for projects. Mm-hmm. Other cities in the state of Texas, in some cases, they do not require a increase in property tax rates as a result of a bond election. But one thing that I do want to share is that the citizens of Beaumont will know in advance how a bond election would impact their taxes. So the city would come to the voters, let them know well in advance if there will be a $10 per month increase, $10 or $12 or $15 per month increase based on the total bond package.
And it's important to note, $10 for a citizen would equal $157 million, more than $157 million in bond monies that we can use to improve the city. That's pretty significant.
Yes, that is a very significant number, and that could cover a lot of the city's needs, infrastructure-related needs, new facilities, improved facilities. And one thing that I do want to note, in the bond survey that was recently submitted to the citizens of Beaumont, and over 2,200 people in the city completed the survey, that over 50% of those stated in the survey that for those improvements in the city that are needed, over 50% would allow for at least a $10 increase per month to get
better
those
roads
projects
or
done.
to get those infrastructure projects that we really desperately need.
Absolutely.
And we also need to mention that our property taxes have gone down the past several years, right?
Yeah, the past few years, property tax rate has decreased. It decreased in the current fiscal year. So that just shows the growth of value in the city, and could potentially, if there is an increase as a result of the bond election, it could be offset by the decreases that we've seen over the past years.
Okay. Again, why not wait? Why now?
Beaumont, just like any other city, has growing needs. I mean, infrastructure needs, facility needs. There are facilities that are outdated and need to be modernized, capacity issues at certain facilities like the Animal Care Center. So the city really has to consider all of the needs out there and address them now, as opposed to waiting to address them later, because the cost is only going to increase if we wait. and then those projects don't get completed in the meantime. The roads will continue to deteriorate if we wait for the various projects. And when the city issues debt for these projects through the issuance of bonds, we don't issue them all at once. We strategically, through a well thought out way, plan for these projects over the coming years, and we would do that in this case.
Citizens are saying, how can I get involved? I know hopefully they're out there saying, okay, it makes sense, June. I understand what you're saying. What's my part? So how can the citizens get involved?
Yeah, and one of the reasons we are proposing a bond election is just that, because we want the citizens involved in their city. We want them to have a say and have a voice in the future of Beaumont, and we want to do that together with the citizens. Back in April, the city issued the bond survey, as I mentioned. That was one way that citizens were able to get involved, and again, we had over 2,200 residents that completed the survey, and actually over 2,900 took the survey. So that's a really positive number, so that we can receive feedback from the citizens of Beaumont. Although the survey closed, there are other ways that citizens can get involved in the bond election process. We have an open house, online open house, that's scheduled from July 4th through July 13th, where citizens can be involved and get an update on the bond process and an update on the Bond Advisory Committee and their work, as well as potential projects that may be part of a bond package. And we will have an in-person open house scheduled for July the 12th from 10 a.m. To 12 p.m. at the Lakeside Center. And we want all citizens to come out to hear from city staff and to get an update on how things are going and how a bond election may impact them.
Okay, and then ultimately get out and vote in November if it's part of the November election.
Yes, absolutely. We want the citizens to make their voice heard. We want to hear from the citizens, and we want to help move the city forward through the various projects and the various needs of the city, and that's what this is ultimately all about.
Yeah, and we hear people often say, we need better roads or better drainage, or we want more things to do around the city when we bring our family and friends in. And this is a way to accomplish those things.
Absolutely. Thriving cities across Texas, growing cities across Texas have bond elections on a very regular basis. It is one very good way to move the city forward by bringing such a package of major capital projects to the voters to get their input so that we can all be on the same page in growing and developing our city for us now and for our future residents.
All right, Gene, thank you so much for joining me today and for enlightening us on what the bond proposition is all about. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
And we'd like to congratulate Roy West on being reelected as mayor of the city of Beaumont. The swearing in will take place at the next city council meeting on June 17th. And as always, you can stream this show and past episodes of the Beaumont Beat on multiple platforms, including YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else that you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to our channel, like this episode, and share it with others so they can enjoy it too. For now, I'm Tracy Kennick. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Beaumont Beat, where we move with the heartbeat of the city. We'll see you next time.